প্রেম একে অপরের সঙ্গে যোগাযোগের অর্থাৎ কমিউনিকেশনের প্রধান মাধ্যমই হচ্ছে ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ, ভাষা। আমরা এক ভাষায় কথা বলি। আমাদের প্রধান বন্ধু ক্রমশ কিন্তু হয়ে উঠেছে আমাদের কম্পিউটার, অর্থাৎ কম্পিউটারের সঙ্গেও কিন্তু আমাদের একটা যোগাযোগ তৈরি করতে হয়। আমাদের কাজ করতে গেলে কম্পিউটারের সঙ্গে কথা বলতে হয়। সেই ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজের প্রধান জিনিসই হচ্ছে পাইথন। মৌলানা আবুল কালাম আজাদ প্রযুক্তি বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের মাননীয় উপাচার্য অধ্যাপক সৈকত মিত্র মহাশয়ের পরামর্শে প্রত্যেকটা স্টুডেন্টকে এই পাইথন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ ভালো করে শেখানোর উদ্যোগ নেওয়া হয়েছে এবং উদ্যোগ নিয়েছে আমাদের ম্যাকাউটের টেকনোলজি সেল। আজকে তার ইনাগুরেশন। আজকের এই অনুষ্ঠানে উপস্থিত আছেন ম্যাকাউটের মাননীয় উপাচার্য অধ্যাপক সৈকত মিত্র মহাশয়। অনেক ধন্যবাদ স্যার আজকে এই প্রোগ্রামে আসার জন্য এবং এই প্রোগ্রামটাকে অ্যারেঞ্জ করতে বলার জন্য অনেক ধন্যবাদ। এছাড়া আমাদের মধ্যে উপস্থিত আছেন ম্যাকাউটের স্কুল অফ ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং সায়েন্সের ডিরেক্টর প্রফেসর শিবময় দাশগুপ্ত স্যার। আমাদের মাঝে উপস্থিত আছেন স্কুল অফ ম্যানেজমেন্ট সায়েন্সের ডিরেক্টর প্রফেসর ইন্দ্রনীল মুখার্জি স্যার। উপস্থিত আছেন আমাদের ম্যাকাউটের স্কুল অফ কম্পিউটেশনাল সায়েন্সের ডিরেক্টর প্রফেসর দেবাশিস দে এবং টেকনোলজি সেলের প্রধান মিস্টার প্রীতিময় সান্যাল। প্রত্যেককে আমাদের তরফ থেকে অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ জানাই আজকের এই প্রোগ্রামে আসার জন্য। এবং স্যার যেটা সবসময় বলেন যে স্টুডেন্ট ওরিয়েন্টেড প্রোগ্রামেই আমরা বেশি উৎসাহ বোধ করি এবং সেই প্রোগ্রামই করি। এবং আজকের যে প্রোগ্রাম শুরু হতে যাচ্ছে এটা বেশ কয়েক সপ্তাহ ধরে চলবে এই ক্লাস। আমাদের যেভাবে কোডিং ক্লাস চলে, যেভাবে অ্যানিমেশনের ক্লাস চলে, আজকে তার শুরু। এবং আজকের এই শুরুতে আমি প্রারম্ভিক বক্তব্য রাখার জন্য অনুরোধ করছি আমাদের উপাচার্য মাননীয় অধ্যাপক সৈকত মিত্র মহাশয়কে।
Thank you, Supriyo. These programs, as you said, is basically targeted for developing computational skill with special reference to Python skill amongst our students. All our students, we expect that they will learn, they should know Python, how to handle, how to use Python, because this is going to be one of the most useful computer language for multifarious applications. And if anyone can develop a certain level of skill in this programming language, then getting the job will be a quite easy proposition. And irrespective of background, everyone now should learn these things, and that has been mandated by our university. Computers, programming language or computer coding, Pythons, primarily Python, this should be one of the primary skill of all our students. This is one thing. Secondly, we will also try to upgrade the level of computer knowledge of our students by teaching them and by giving training to them in other computer programming as well, which are useful. But the basic thing is now the understanding this Python language. That is very, very important. And all our students, we want to see that in their curriculum vitae, that there's a good command on Python language is always present, so that it becomes easier for us to make them, this presented in different interview forum, and to present their CV to different employers. And I believe that within a short period, because most of the students, they have their computer knowledge. Only thing, some of them, they require only a brushing up of this existing knowledge. Some may require altogether a new, the skill, these acquisitions, or in learning these things. But whatever it is, within a reasonable time period, maybe 6 months or 1 year, we want to make this level playing field, this for everyone, so that there is no difference in terms of this Python language skill amongst our students from different background. So I have advised our all directors to make a list of all the students who require these types of training. And after this training period over, we will assess the understanding level of all the students. If required, then we will be organizing this further supplementary training program for all these students who will be requiring this. But this exercise that is now it is again I'm reiterating, now it has become a mandate of this university. So within a period of 6 months, we want to make each and everyone comfortable with this Python command language. This is one thing. Second is another thing is this, many times I have seen that many of our teachers, they are also not quite conversant in using Python language. Okay, that is also very important. This, though the program is primarily aimed for students, but the teacher can always join here. If the teacher feels some sort of inhibition in joining this program, training programs along with students, so there is a good option available at internet, Python for everyone. These languages for this online courses offered by top universities like University of Michigan and others are available. So the teacher can always go for a self-upgradation or the self-learning system. And if they do not have any inhibition, they can join here. This is our open invitation to all the teachers. We cannot ask them to sit with the students in a compulsory mode to take this training program. But my appeal to all of the teachers also, you also try to understand, try to get adequate skill level and knowledge level in Python programming, so that it is easier for you to assign different projects and problems to the students pertaining to this area. Then students will check the knowledge level of the students. For the teachers, maybe they go for self-learning. Maybe we will organize some sort of faculty development programs or faculty training programs to our teaching community in near future. But this is now called up this writing on the wall. This language learning is essential and crucial for growth and development of self and for the entire this technology community, not only of our university but also for the entire this country and entire world. So with this, my best wishes to Pitimoy, sincere thanks to Pitimoy, because he is time and again responding to my request and arranging these types of training programs. It's great of him, because this requires lots of pain in designing a curriculum of the programs and giving training, besides all other regular responsibilities. But because we are having persons like Pitimoy and others, some persons like him, so our system is moving. This is also a good sign for us. And my best wishes for all these students for very, very effective learning. And I wish that after 6 months, all of you who are present over here will have a good command for Python language. And that will be very much helpful for your personal career. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your encouraging speech and for guidance and for giving the opportunity to the students and teachers also. Thank you, sir. And now I would like to request to say something regarding this matter about Professor Shivamoy Dasgupta, sir.
Thank you, Shukriyo. I will be speaking partly in Bengali and partly in English. Mixing, because we have perhaps both type of students who are in vernacular as well as maybe quite conversant in English conversation. And first of all, at the outset, I would I think express my sincere gratitude to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Shulpat Mutto, because of his initiative. Actually, this has happened. And I think it's a very important, happening, and be a very important step that every student should know programming language. And that is actually not being followed overall in West Bengal, but in other states like, say, Karnataka, Pune, Maharashtra. I think most of the institutions are following that. Okay, that is one thing, and that is very important. And I will very briefly, background boli. Python was introduced by Guido van Rossum in 1991. Uনি Dutch software professional, and still he is alive. And in 1991, he introduced a new thing, and it has a background that it came from, first of all, STEL. STEL was a very high-level language based on mathematical theory of sets. I think developed by Professor Jack Schwartz of New York University. That is in 1960s. And then from that came ABC language. And from that actually came Python. So, and with this name Python, this Rosham actually, he was very much fond of a TV serial of BBC, which was being telecasted during that time, Monty Python's Flying Circus. So he wanted to give some catchy name. He gave it Python. Okay, and in 1999, he produced, I think, submitted a proposal to DARPA, DARPA, that is Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency of USA. In fact, it was started, this agency was started in 1958. That time its name was Advanced Research Projects Agency by the then President Eisenhower. And here he defined what are the goals of Python. One is an easy and intuitive language, just as powerful as major competitors. Second one is open source, so anyone can contribute to developments. Third, code that is understandable as plain English, and suitability for everyday task, allowing for short development tasks. So that these were actually basic, these basic goals of Rosham, but it superseded this, and it became almost a very, very, I think, very, handy and very versatile language, computer language. And so in 1991, Python was instituted, and this almost 30 years old. This language is 30 years old. So now it is almost, it has, I think, entered every sphere of activities, and academic as well as non-academic also, business and many other activities. So many things can be done by Python. And it is totally, you need not have to pay a single paisa for that. That is one very good advantage. And overall, in general, all the, software, world-renowned software professionals, what they feel is that a language should be yet to be developed, that we want something as usable for general programming language as Python, as easy for statistics as R, as natural for string processing as Perl, as powerful for linear algebra as MATLAB, as good at gluing programs together as the shell. So this is the total actually ideal situation, and Python is fulfilling most of them. And so it is very much, I think, sought after today. And everybody should know, every individual should know, who are and have got some activity with computer programming should know Python. And Python is now facing competition also. A lot of other softwares are coming up. As when Python was coming up 30 years, 30 years back, the similar situation is now happening. And there are many contenders. One of them is Julia. That is a new programming language, and it is now taking over gradually the machine learning and data science applications. And in fact, I have had a little bit of, introspection and other exercises with Julia. I found that software actually embeds some qualities of MATLAB also. So anyway, so this is another thing. Now this is one thing we should understand, we should now know, we should be able to use Python. That is one thing. But for university, especially our professors, and also as a whole the computer space, literate community. So see, these things, these developments are happening only in the Western world. So we should also think that how we can also contribute towards that, and how at least some language can be made in India also. So that is with that, because today who are actually, who will be getting training, they are the future citizens of the country, and they should have the same also, along with not only usage, also to develop and contribute, because Python has already crossed 30 years. So the needs will be further more and more. And so it may not be the sought after language after say several years, but some other language may come up. But in that process, our youngsters of today should contribute, and we should create an environment congenial for that development. And I think this forum will have the initial, thrust on that, in that direction. And so they will start learning, and we will keep it up, and we will still maintain all over the institute and all the in all the departments a congenial environment, so that students can use, and not only students, even faculties can also use and also contribute towards the development of Python. With that, with sincere thanks to all the panelists and all the viewers, I conclude my few words this way. And again, sincere thanks to everybody, and very best wishes for this program, which will be following this, I think, actual learning program. This is the inauguration, actual learning program, and it will continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful speech and for giving such information. Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to request our Director of Computational Sciences, School of Computational Sciences, Professor Devashish De. Sir.
Thank you, Supriya Taradda, sir. Very good morning to all the members. Thank you to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, for taking this initiative of teaching Python to the students. And special thanks to Pitimoy, who is taking all the pains for teaching, say, agriculture to the C language, and now Python. So it shows his versatile. Is like an all-rounder. So we need this kind of all-rounder. So thanks to Pitimoy. And when Python is coming in our discussion, which is very important from today's perspective, because language has evolved the last 30, 40 years. So if I can remember, I have started my programming language with Fortran. I still have that book of Fortran, formula translation, Fortran. And after Fortran, I think we did with basic language, beginners, all-purpose, symbolic instruction code. Basic is very popular, was very popular that time. Q basic, GW basic, that we have studied. And after that, it comes with C, C++, object-oriented programming. So we have gone through various languages. And after that, we landed with Java. And Java is considered as one of the most versatile language, because Java is platform independent. So at least from my perspective, I can tell you that I've learned Java like anything. We have worked very hard to learn Java, and I thought this is the last language in my life. At least I thought that time, because Java is platform independent and all the games are built up with Java. But also I worked with COBOL when I was in industry, Cognizant. Then there is a big mainframe computer. Still the COBOL language is very popular for mainframe computer. Now what happened at Professor Shimoy Dasgupta sir has mentioned details of history of Python. Sometimes I thought I will not learn Python. I'll keep myself away from Python, but the system will not allow you. System will not allow you. I'm repeating this term because 2-3 important points that if you want to do, I was doing some experiment with nanotechnology. We have one software called Molecular Dynamics and Virtual Nanolab, where each and every molecule block, those are from material science, those are from materials or natural nanotechnology background. So each and every molecules can be developed. Virtual Nanolab is developed using the Python language only. Okay, so you have to learn Python, whether it is you are from a material science or engineer or your biotechnology. Python has a lot of impact on biotechnology also. biotechnology and bioinformatics. So you have to learn Python. And recently, for last 3 years, I was working in the quantum computer. Believe it or not, the language of quantum computer is called QSKIT. QSKIT is by IBM, and the basic is Python. So if you want to use the quantum computer or quantum computing, even I've seen NPTEL this week they are launching this Python for quantum computer. This week they are launching NPTEL. So it is they are going to start from this week. So Python becomes the part and parcel of our life. So something is called literacy, right? Without knowing Python, actually we become illiterate in terms of computer science or engineering point of view. Because if you see the GitHub, the largest repository, all the codings in GitHub is based on Python. So if you want to access GitHub for your project, for your research, for your any higher studies, GitHub is developed and rather designed with this Python. So although Shivam sir has mentioned about Julia and these things are coming, but if you have my suggestion is to all the students, those who are listening, if you make your knowledge logic level clear, then it is very easy to grab the coding. And moreover, Python is very easy, very easy to understand. And we don't have to code like C language of 1,000-line code. Just you have to follow the syntax and you have to follow the, you have to just load that Jupyter notebook and you just follow the steps. And it is very interesting and open source based system, which I think is almost essential for everyone, irrespective of the branch of computer science, electronics, or biotechnology, or any other field, civil engineering, or mechanical. So everyone have to learn Python. So I think it is a excellent initiative by our university, and especially by our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. And I believe all the members, all the students will be extremely benefited with this discussion. And thank you. With this, I like to thank Prithimoy for best wishes for next few days to come. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, thank you. Thanks a lot, sir. Now I would like to request to say something regarding this Python and this nice initiative. Our Director of School of Management Science, Professor Indranil Mukherjee. Sir.
Thank you, Supriya, for inviting me. Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Professor Shoikat Moitra, Professor Shivamoy Dasgupta, Director, School of Engineering Science, Professor Debashish De, Director, School of Computational Science, Mr. Prithimoy Sharnal, Head Technology Cell, and Supriya Tarafdar, Head of School Connect Program. A very good morning to all the participants. And as Professor Debashish De and Professor Dasgupta mentioned, this is an excellent initiative on the part of our university and a brainchild of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Professor Shoikat Moitra. Professor Moitra has been spearheading this initiative of inducting people into the Pythonic arena, you'd call it. Life has become very much Pythonic these days, as Professor Debashish De mentioned. So we have been trying to do it since 2017-18, and it gives us great pleasure that it is now coming to fruition. Now, Professor Dasgupta and Professor De have dealt in detail about the origin of Python and its importance. I'd just like to tell you one thing, those participants who are watching, very often people ask that why do we need to learn programming? For example, somebody who is learning, let's say, food science, what do we have to do with Python? Well, I will show you an example. Look at this mobile phone. You are seeing the front end. We are using the front end of this mobile phone. We are making calls. We are doing WhatsApp chat, sending SMS messages. We are seeing films, listening to cricket and all that. But just turn it around. You want to go to the backside. This is what a programmer does. He knows how to do work on the backside so that the front end comes up. In programming and the whole software environment, you will hear these two words, front end and back end, very, very often. So this is what programming is all about. And remember, you may not be a professional programmer. That's probably, you may be, but mostly people with CSE IT backgrounds do that. But even then, it's a wonderful experience. If you write a program, let's say somebody in travel tourism, he writes a code which would help him in his domain. See, today we are concerned about domains, and all these languages are very important to spruce up your domain knowledge. So I think that's why it's very, very exciting to learn Python. As Professor Debashis very rightly said, that you cannot live today without Python. If you try to live without Python, you will have to leave the arena probably. So that's it. And Vice Chancellor sir very correctly said, as with his wisdom, that there are very, very good resources. Of course, Prithimoy will be there to teach you all this coding. But remember, coding is something you have to learn. There will be teachers will be there to guide you, but you have to learn by actually writing codes from the books and from the wonderful storehouse today you have on the internet. When we were students, myself or Professor Debashis Dey or Professor Dashgupta, this was not available. But today you can easily access it. So do learn it, and in particularly, Sir mentioned University of Michigan. It's a very good course. In parallel with what Prithimoy sir will be teaching you, you can do that. You can pick up the basic Python programming for everyone. That's the basic syntax and all that stuff. And then you can go to the data structures. We'll learn about the lists, the dictionaries, the tuples, but do write the code. Then you will learn how to use Python with databases. So today we are engulfed with this big data technology, and there Python plays an amazing role. So how to work with databases. Then you will learn how to scrape data from the web. That is another big thing which Python does. How to scrape data from the web, how to do sentiment analysis using the web and all that. And may I mention that there is a beautiful book by Dr. Charles Severance of University of Michigan. It's called Python for Everybody. It's called Python for Everybody. And may I request you, including my dear colleague Prithimoy Shanial, to help you with this book. This book is, by the way, available for free. You can download it for free, and you can get a look at this book, and you can learn to write codes. This is one of the many, many references that are available. But you should actually, I may request to all the dear participants is, please to start writing codes from day one. That is the way you can learn any programming language, not only Python. And at the last but not the least, my great gratitude, I might say, to Mr. Prithimoy Shanial. As VC sir mentioned, Prithimoy has several tasks. We normally put him under a lot of assignments, but in spite of that, he's really a self-motivated person. So he does a lot of work on this. And thank you, Prithimoy, for organizing this session for all the students. And thanks to Shupriyo for conducting this session. And my best wishes to all the participants. And although Prithimoy will be primarily your teacher, we will all be there throughout in this journey. So please reach out whenever you feel the need to do so. And Shupriyo sir will be there to guide you. Thanks you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, and really thanks for your nice example. Dear students, as the panelists said that, our sir said that without Python, we are just illiterate in computational area. So be carefully and freely, happily, just learn Python. And now this is the time I would like to request Mr. Prithimoy Shanial to start the today's inauguration class. Prithimoy.
Thank you, Shupriyo. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Shupriyo. So, Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Director, sir, Professor Shivamay Dashgupta, Professor Indrajit Mukherjee, and Professor Debashis Dey, and my beloved students at the opposite side of my screen. Actually, you know from the discussion of all the respected panelists that was the importance of the Python. Basically, actually, I got the opportunity, of course, through the Coursera to did my basic and advanced course in Python from University of Michigan. And actually, I also got the opportunity to meet with the inventor of the Python at that time, Jirashan. Okay. So during the conversation, actually, at the time, he actually explained what type of struggle at the time of the invention of the Python he actually faced. And he actually, you know, that during 1986-87, actually, C was invented by Cunningham Ritchie. And at that time, what's the hype of the C? Is you know that is very much actually all of the people actually know how what's the C, how we can implement the operating system through C, because at that time Unix is the one of the important operating system, is the because all of the people of the computer world are very much eager to develop the multi-user operating system. So you know that the Unix is a multi-user operating system. You are the student of the computer science also and other streams, so you know about the different types of operating system. So multi-user, you know that a number of users can access the machine or resources at the simultaneously. Okay, but in case of single user machine, only the single user can interact with the machine at a time. Okay, so at that time, what's the people actually want to develop the multi-user operating system. During that time, C is the one of the language, because before C, already Professor Shumai sir informed you that before C there is another language, BCPL. Actually, during the project of DARPA, Defense of Advanced Research Project Agency Network, the DARPA actually one of the actually in computer domain there are two important domains are there. First one is of course the invention of the DARPA, Defense of Advanced Research Project Agency. It's a American defense network. And another was the Bell Lab, AT&T, okay, American Telephone and Telegraph Bell Lab. So what we see that the in DARPA project, the origin of the network, what's the concept of, you know now, LAN, WAN, MAN, etc., etc., actually originated from the DARPA project. First one was the ARPA, then Defense ARPA, okay, Defense of American Research, American Defense Research Project Agency Network, okay. So from the network concept, you know that the people actually understand that whenever we want to communicate with number of machines, okay, so we have to develop one system by which we can communicate with number of machines in our network. So people understand that whenever we develop that system, so we have to access simultaneously the resources. Resources means what's the actually, for example, the memory, for example, the files of a computer system. So if we develop the single operating system, only one user can interact with the machine. But if we develop the multi-user operating system, then number of users can interact at the same time. But what's the problem in case of multi-user operating system? Mainly the conflict. That means if the same time, if I want to access the same resource, then there will be conflict between you and me. Okay. So we have to develop one algorithm. You know what's the term of algorithm, what the term term of the program, etc., flowchart, etc. This is the basic part of the any computer programming. So I am not in a position to explain the details of the programming algorithm, etc., because I know that you are quite matured, and you know how we can proceed, because whenever we learn the Python, it is nothing but the script language. So I can give the command and I can get the output. Okay, so that's not a problem. So at that time, during the invention of the multi-user operating system, what the actual people want to develop means a type of algorithm by which they can interact, they can access the same resource simultaneously. How it's possible? So therefore, people understand that we have to develop one operating system which is known as the multi-user operating system. Okay, so at that time, DCPL was the language. Okay, so after that, the Unix actually invented in AT&T. Number of scientists are there. They are actually involving to develop the language by which they can develop the multi-user operating system. So then the Unix actually originated from the research. Okay, so whenever the Unix initially is written by the machine level language, but you know what's the problem of the machine level language, because you have to understand the machine level code 0, 1, etc. So it is very much difficult to remember the code. Okay, so therefore the actually scientists of the computer world actually invented another language which is much better than the machine level language, which is known as the assembly level language. Okay, through assembly language, you can interact with the machine like some English-like language, okay? But what's the problem again? The problem is that you have to again understand, you have to again remember the code specifically developed for the, or specifically designed for the assembly language. So now people actually think that we have to invent another language so that we can remember the instruction. It should be closely related actually with the English-like language. So at that time, the BCPL actually developed, and after that, the simultaneously Unix also developed. So people now concentrating on to just enhance the flavor of the Unix. And at that time, Cunningham Ritchie in Bell Lab actually developed the language which is known as the C programming language, that means CPL. And after the invention of the CPL, people think that we can develop with the help of the CPL, the multi-user operating system, that is Unix. So you see that the most of the part of the Unix are quite compatible with the C language, even the shell also. C shell is there in, you know what the shell, because the computer, the main part of the computer system is the hardware. You know, the hardware only understand the 0, 1. So on the desktop of the hardware, you see that there is a kernel. So kernel actually interact with the hardware, and with the kernel there is another layer is there. This is known as the shell. So shell is mainly responsible for what? It takes the English-like input from the user, actually situated at the top of the shell, and convert the corresponding language to the kernel, and kernel take the input from the shell and send to the hardware part, that means the 0, 1 part, and then your request actually executed, and after the execution of your request, the hardware part actually send the output to the kernel, and kernel again send the output to the shell, and from shell you will get your desired output. This is the normal flow of the program processing. Okay, so whenever people actually, when the Cunningham Ritchie actually invented the C language, CPL, so people understand that with the help of the CPL, we can develop the shell of the kernel of Unix operating system. So there is a shell still now, C shell. Okay, lot of shells are there. Bash shell is there, corn shell is there, C shell is there. But one of the important shell is the C shell. C shell. Okay, so you can directly interact with the kernel also with the help of the C shell. So you know what's the powerful language of the C. So this is the reason for what you see, that if you know the C language, so you see that this is very much error prone. That means if you make an error, single error, you will get number of lines where it actually shows the multiple errors are there. So if you are experienced enough, then you can identify what is error actually occurs, and you can remove the errors. This is one of the problem of the C language, but C is the very powerful language, because you know C actually developing the operating system like Unix, even Linux also. Even nowadays, whenever you want to develop some shell, okay, so we use the C and assembly language. Okay, so this is the power of the C language. So at that time, during 1984, 85, 86, at that time, C was very popular, and people actually mainly concentrating on the C language. And you know that what type of popularity was, so that the ANSI, one of the standard organization in America, ANSI actually gave a lot of version of the compiler actually developed for C language. So it creates a problem, because you know that each and every compiler has its own language, has its own syntax, has its own grammar. So whenever you see that for the C language, there are a lot of compilers are there, so it is too difficult to understand what compiler I have to learn. Okay, so therefore ANSI actually came, and ANSI actually developed one standard for the C language. Therefore, after 1987, the C language is known as the CPL, is known as the ANSI standard. Okay. So if you quite familiar with the C and quite familiar with the C programming language file handling, you know that there is a function fopen by which we can open the file of which is still stored in our secondary storage device. That means, you know, hard disks, with the function of fopen. But before that, before ANSI, the function was MyOpen. So if you actually purchase from the College Street old bookstore, because I have one book, I actually purchased from the, actually I want to know, because one of my favorite language is the C. So I actually want to know what's the history of the C. Therefore, I visited the old bookshop of College Street, and I bought one books where I see that the primitive syntax of the C language during the 1985-86. I know what the instruction at the time was there. For example, in case of F open, it's my open. In case of F close, it is my close, etc., etc. So a lot of ambiguities, lot of problems are there, because whenever I know the NCC, but whenever I actually want to know what's the previous version of the NC, actually it is quite complicated, because I see that a printf statement is different, scanf is different, etc., etc. So this is the problem. At that time, this was a problem that therefore NC actually came and solved the problem. They actually give the one standard that you have to, if you want to learn the C language, you have to learn the NCC standard. Okay. So during that time, after getting the standardization from NC, people now involving, because this is the new type of language, so people are involving to learn the C language in more details. And at that time, during 1991, even Windows operating system, Windows, the previous version of the Windows 3X series, actually developed in C. Okay, code part actually is in C, and this C is known as the Pro C. Actually, I developed a lot of programs in Pro C, because Windows program at that time, now you open lot of Windows simultaneously. You know that for each Windows, actually Windows operating system maintain one specific handle. Okay. That is, one handle means one child process, because whenever you want to learn the programming language, you have to also learn the basics of the operating system, because they're closely related. Basic operating system, networking, and the organization part is closely related with the any type of programming language, specifically C and Python also. Of course, Java also. Already Debashish sir informed that Java is a platform independent, but of course Java is a platform independent. But whenever you develop your own Java program, whenever you want to execute the Java program, if you want to know the details, you can learn the program in two ways. Either you simply write some codes and execute the code, and you will, if you get your desired result, then you will be happy. This is not the proper way for learning the programming language, because you have to make the error in your programming language, and you have to learn why it occurs. Because whenever you see that there are a lot of errors, it is a good sign for learning the programming language, because without any errors, if you learn the programming, it's impossible. Okay, because programming is nothing but the one type of language that you have to learn, and this language has proper grammar, proper syntax. So for example, whenever you write the programming language, you make this error, and you learn why actually error occurs. Okay, from this errors, you will understand the basics of the programming. So whenever you write the program, you make, not intentionally, unintentionally, you can make the errors and try to understand why actually error occurs. And if you understand why, then you can learn. Okay, so therefore, Indranil sir already explained that I can give you the idea, I can give you the knowledge about the programming, about the Python, but you have to learn. You have to learn. You are the student, so you have to learn. You have to develop the program. If you face any problem, you know that we actually develop one community-based interface for our university in-house student, MAKAUT community, community.makautwb.net. I will give you the registration link, so that number of students we can interact with each other through this community-based initiative. So if you face any problem, you can directly upload your problem in this community site, so the other students can intervene, and can, even I also, or other faculty members also, so they can solve your problem. So what my intention is that I can give you the knowledge about the Python, about the programming, but you have to learn, you have to develop your own program, not what type of tasks I will give. You also develop from your own knowledge, from your own curiosity. If you curious more, you can develop your own problem. You can make a mistake, that's not a problem. You can give the problem, or what type of problem or errors in our community site, then we will of course intervene. Okay, so at that time, the inventor of the Python developed the Python during 1991. At that time, he actually also met with Bill Gates of the Microsoft organization, because you know that the Microsoft also at that time they also involving for develop the Windows operating system in ProC. So during Windows 95, they actually think that we concentrate on the C language, not Python, because at that time the inventor G. Rasham actually talked with Bill Gates also, and a lot of seminars actually at the time when actually we got the opportunity to interact with him through the Michigan University initiative. So we know the details that at that time he actually met with Bill Gates and discussed about the scope and feasibility of the Python. What's the flexibility of the Python rather than the C? But people actually mainly concentrating on C language. So at that time, Bill Gates also informed him that no, I am very much eager to implement my operating system to C through C or other, not Python. Okay. So you see that though the Python actually invented during the 1991, but you see that now the people actually know about the Python. Why? Because number of domains, you see that actually what we predict that domains actually dominate our future world. That is the AI, ML, artificial intelligence, machine language, etc., etc. So you see that in all cases, Python is the one language that by which we can develop several modules, okay, user-friendly modules with few number of codes. Because in C, what you see, because whenever I you learn the Python language, of course there will be a comparison with C language, because C and Python are very closely related, though their execution mode is totally different. Because in case of C, the compiler will be required, but in case of Python, there is no need for compiler, only interpreter will be there. So whenever we actually learn something, of course, we compare with the C language, because it shows the evolution from the compiler-based language to the interpreter-based language. Okay, you see what's the flexibility of the Python. Why Python now is popular? Okay, in each and every part of the computer world, you get the actually code or information on Python. Okay, this is the flexibility. Even what's the limitation of the Python few years ago is that whenever you want to develop network programming, of course, in case of C, actually, you know what's the limitation of the C, the network programming. You are not able to develop the network programming through C, but the fundamental of the networking, for example, in case of Unix, when process-to-process communication, actually, if you want to do the process-to-process communication in Unix, because you know the multi-user means multi-processing software also. So whenever you communicate with a lot of processes through the Unix operating system, you can write one type of C program, one type of C functions, which is known as the socket. This is the basic of the networking part. For example, in case of Java, whenever you develop the network programming, you have to use the socket. This is a basic part of any programming, any network programming language, because you know nowadays whenever the network system, you know what's the importance of the network system. This is the backbone of our civilization. Okay, you know more or less billion of people actually use the network. Without network, I don't know what we actually do. So in your mobile, in your computer, in your TV, there are networks. So our expectation is from 2G to 3G to 4G to 5G, then 6G, 7G, and a lot of this. Okay. So you know that what's the importance of the network in our life. So if you go to the actually basic parts of the networking, you see whenever if you want to communicate from one machine to another, you have to develop the socket. And this socket in C, you can easily develop. There is a socket function, there is a socket header file. Even you know that whenever we communicate with the machines, there are several types of protocols are there. For example, TCP is a protocol, UDP is a protocol, FTP is a protocol, a lot of protocols are there. So even you can develop your own protocol, your own private socket layer through the C program. But initially people think that with the help of the C, we are not able to develop the network programming. Only Java we can develop. Similar in case of the Python also, what people actually think that Python, we can do a lot of things. We can develop a lot of modules for machine level language, from AI, even, so not machine level language, actually machine learning, AI, even the sentiment analysis, this is the one of the important part of our natural language processing, NLP. So, but people actually think that we are not able to develop the Python. We are not to develop the network programming through the Python. But few years ago, one of the programming interface actually developed for the Python, which is known as the Django, and Django is now very much popular for network programming in Python. Okay, so a lot of tutorials you can see, and even a lot of internet service providers are there. They can, because whenever in cloud computing, whenever you actually upload your program or you upload your interface into the cloud, you have to develop your own system, so that front-end system and also the back-end system, because cloud is one of the storage area where you can put your information, but you have to develop the interface so that both the front end and back end, so that the user who actually want to access your cloud can directly interact with the front end part. So that cloud actually gives the opportunity to us to develop or to give some interface, so that we can develop our own system. For example, if I develop our own system, our own interactive system in PHP and MySQL, this is the open source software, because you will freely, it is available in our internet domain. So PHP and MySQL, so my cloud give the opportunity for the PHP and MySQL side. Until and unless we get the opportunity from the cloud, we are not able to host my interface into the cloud system. So at that now, what's the issue that I want to emphasize, that whenever you want to upload one application to the Python, because if you want to develop one machine language application in Python or AI-based application in Python, so if you want to upload that interface into the cloud, so cloud gives the opportunity to support your interface. That means the Python should be there. So now, after getting huge popularity from all over the world, all the service provider of the cloud, actually, though it is AWS, though it is other cloud service provider, they actually also give the opportunity for doing your program in cloud through the Python and Django also. Okay, so this is the actually I think that this is the one of the great achievement of the Python domain. Python Python lovers. Okay, even you see that lot of communities are there. Python. Okay, so before Python though invented during the 90s, but during 2010, the MATLAB actually already Professor Shivamaya Dasgupta sir actually informed about the MATLAB. I know you know about the MATLAB MATLAB programming language. So MATLAB actually during 2005-6, actually I got the opportunity using the MATLAB in ISI lab. This is the first, at that time, this is the first time actually I got this opportunity. Even at that time, the other faculty members of the Indian Statistical Institute is very much reluctant to use the Python. Even some scientists from ISI Bangalore are not willing to use the Python at that time, because they think that Python do everything. I just give one example. In case of if I want to read one image file in C, I have to write the program. For example, if I want to read the image file, tag image file TIFF, you know what's the full form of the TIFF, TIFF, tag image file format. So if I want to read the tag image file through the C language, I have to write a program consisting of maximum 400 to 500 lines. Okay, so at that time, this was the art of programming. So whenever I write the program with lot of instructions, that means I am a good programmer. Okay, but MATLAB first actually give the opportunity to write the same tasks with single instruction. For example, if I want to read the image file through the MATLAB program, I simply use the imread function and just send the argument, as a TIFF file. So IM is so powerful that it can understand what's the, because you know that in case of TIFF file, there is a specific type of header. In case of BMP file, there is a specific type of header. In case of JPEG file, there is a specific type of header. And this type of header actually is nothing but a structure. In C, this is the structure. So different types of structures are there. So that's the reason if you try to open any bitmap file, any tag image file, any JPEG file in Notepad, what you see at the top of portion of the Notepad, you see a lot of ASCII characters are there. Because this is the header that the Notepad, though the universal text editor, but Notepad is not able to understand what is writing at the header part. So you have to develop your own structure for understanding what the structure of the image file, and the content of image file remains same, but the structure actually different for in case of JPEG, in case of TIFF, in case of BMP, and so on. Okay. So whenever I write a program for just reading the information of the image file, I have to write the program in C. If I want to write the program in C, then I have to develop one algorithm, one portion dedicatedly for what? Dedicated for understanding the what type of header is there. Okay. So it takes more or less 100 to 150 lines. Okay. But in case of MATLAB, and after the read of the image file, what you will get? In case of C, you will get the matrix, because image actually mainly consists of the matrix. Matrix mainly the picture elements. What's the coordinate of the picture elements? What the intensity of the pictures? And what's the value of the each pixels? Okay, not pictures, pixel. Picture is mainly consists of the pixels. So pixels actually there is a X and Y coordinate. Of course, there is the intensity. If it is a gray level scale, you know that in color this is different. So we have to understand what the XY coordinate along with the intensity. So the matrix is the output of any image file. So whenever I want to read the image file through the C language, I have to develop the program consisting of maximum 300 to 400 lines. But output will be the matrix of that image. Similarly, if I use the imread function, imread function in MATLAB and send the tag image file format as an argument, it gives the output the same matrix. So is it essential for writing the huge number of lines? Because whenever you write the program, number of lines are there, it obviously you will make a mistakes. Okay. So at that time, if you write a lot of instruction, you are the good programmer. But now what we want to do, we use the simple instruction, simple one-liner instruction, so that we can get our desired output. For that reason, Python is the language. Python is a language. This is not the script-based language. Therefore, you can see today, I will explain, you can see that lot of tasks we can do with the help of the Python. Okay. So therefore, we can develop the module also. Even in MATLAB, MATLAB actually gives our one opportunity that we can do a lot of things. The module concept we see from MATLAB, because if you are interested only in image processing, then there is a module for image processing in MATLAB. If you are interested in signal processing, there is a signal processing MATLAB. If you are interested in statistics, there is a statistical part in the MATLAB. So separate modules are there. You simply invoke the module in your program and you can write your program. Okay. So similarly, in case of Python, you see that a lot of modules are there. If you want to plot something, you can load one module in your Python. If you want to develop the image processing, you can load some functions, some modules in your Python. So similarly, like MATLAB, Python's actually a lot of modules are there. According to your wish, you can simply select the module and you can incorporate that module into your program. Okay. But if you want to purchase, if you want to use the MATLAB, you have to purchase. But if you want to use the Python, it is freely available. Okay, so you can do a lot of things. So a lot of actually Python gives one opportunity, one actually environment for us for developing lot of program, lot of modules in AI and ML. And nowadays, after the Python, a lot of languages are there already. Shivam has explained. Because during the time of C, you know that what's the difficult task of the C language is the handling the string. You know what's the string? String is a consecutive character. I am a good boy is the string. String mainly consists of number of characters. So at that time, C, when the ANSI actually give the standardization to see, then at that time actually there is a problem for writing any part if you want to use the string, it is too difficult to write a program in C. So therefore, in printf, you see that there is a specific type of syntax is there, %, but sometimes you see whenever number of spaces are there, so C is not able to understand what you are writing. If you write a long sentence, C actually read few of the words. Okay, so therefore the specific type of header file actually develops string.h, and in string.h you know that the getS and putS is the specific functions for writing the string related program in C. But today we will see that in Python it is a very simple task. You can concatenate, you can add the string, you can take the particular character from the string. It's simple syntax. Okay, I will show you. So this is the flexibility of the Python program, and gradually whenever we learn the Python, what I want to actually teach you both the basic and advanced part, because the basic part is the fundamental of the Python program. If I get the opportunity for actually teaching you the advanced part, I think that it will be more flexible to actually give the more opportunity to you for using the Python in different parts of the application. Okay. So now, first of all, I think that you don't know about the what is Python and how we can install. So I just share one screen. Actually, before that, Indonesian sir actually informed one books. Actually, I know you know that I did both the basic and advanced course on Python from actually Michigan University. So I got the books from them also, and you can also the books is also available in network. I just shared the books. Just 1 minute. I just shared the books. This is the books. Python for Everybody. Experiment data using the Python 3. Dr. Charles or Severance. These are very good books, and I can give you these books also, so you can read. This is the books consisting of 245 pages. So it is a very good book. Okay, now I stop the sharing, and now I just show you how you can install the Python. Look that. Hear it? Yes. এই সুপ্রিয় এটা দেখা যাচ্ছে স্টেপ সাকসেসফুল এইটা ইনস্টল পাইথন okay fine. So first of all I show you that what's the importance of the Python in your program. Even I don't know whether you know it or not, that whenever you install your Windows operating system in your machine, automatically there is a Python interpreter in the cell. Look that I just stop the share and I share the screen. That before that I just open the CMD command prompt. I open the command prompt. You see, yes, this is my command prompt. Okay, so you know how to open the command prompt. Simply type CMD in the type here to search box of the Windows 10 operating system, and if you write here the py means Python, you see automatically I entered the Python shell. Look that. So in your MSI, that is in your application, Windows application, as the Python, you know that a lot of applications in Windows actually develop in Python. So whenever you install the Python in your Windows operating system in your machine, in your computer, automatically Python interpreter also loaded in your system. If you want to know whether it is loaded or not, you simply type the py in the command prompt and see this type of message you will get or not. If you write something 2 + 3, I will show you, you get the output also. So it is too simple. Okay, so Python interpreter is with you, is with your systems. But what's the problem? Because you know the Python is the huge actually huge part, huge domains. Okay. So if you want to do lot of tasks with the Python, you are not able to include the different types of package in Python through this command prompt. Okay. So just basic few tasks you can perform with the help of the this type of script. Okay. So specifically, whenever you want to do a lot of tasks with the Python, if you learn more and more in Python, so you have to install the Python in your machine. So now I just stop the command prompt and open the actually just 1 minute. I open this Python for how to install the Python. Yes. So look that. This is the, you know, you are the student of computer science, so you know that what's the requirement. The Windows 10, with, of course, with the admin privilege and the command prompt and remote desktop connection, which is not required. Essential requirement is the operating system, of course, the latest operating system and latest version of the Python. You go to the Python installation site, python.org site, and you will see that this is for the Windows version. Before you install the Windows version, you have to select what your actually operating system is. It 64-bit or 32-bit? If I know that the most of the cases in Windows 10 it is 64-bit operating system. So you select the 64-bit operating system. Automatically you see the latest version of the Python, because the python.org maintain the system logs, and there you can see that what's the latest version of the Python. And because whenever a lot of modules actually integrated with the Python, the new version actually you see in in this domain. Okay, so you select the Python, and at the right part there is another actually menus are there. This is known as the pre-release version of the Python. If you're quite familiar with the previous version, you can select that version and you can download. But what I recommended you, that you have to install the Python of the latest version from the Python site. Okay. After that, the important part is that this window actually appears on your screen. Here the install now option there. Most of the people actually what it's a mistake. They simply click on it and then click on next. But before that, you have to click on this checkbox, two checkbox. Install launcher for all users. This is recommended. And of course, this is very vital. This is very important. At Python, what type of version you actually install. Here, this is 3.7. It may be 3.9 and more. 3.9, 3.7 to path. Path is a DOS command. If you are not able to check both the boxes, what's the problem? After install of Python in your machine, you see that whenever you want to use the Python, your program is not able to locate the Python interpreter. Okay, so you have to, then what you have to do, either you can go to the command prompt, change the path variable, otherwise you just simply uninstall the Python again and reinstall it, and before you install you check both the boxes. Okay, after that you there is no problem, you will get this type of message, setup was successful. Okay, so this is the first thing. Then you just type the py at the command prompt, you will see what's the path of the Python, where is the Python interpreter actually located. Okay, Python interpreter is so powerful that whenever you write the program, automatically your interpreter can identify where the program is and also execute the program. Okay, now I concentrate on the two parts. First one is in case of programming language, whenever you write the programming language, maybe the procedural, or you can write the single instruction and execute the instruction. Procedural means if you, after completion of each and every procedure, the executable code actually developed by the compiler. So this procedure consists of number of lines. For example, in case of C, whenever you write the hello world program, you write that hash include stdio.h main, then open the second curly bracket, then write printf hello world, then give the semicolon, after that close the curly bracket. So this is the procedure. Then whenever you compile the program, you first compile, then build all, then it actually convert to the corresponding object code, then the linker and loader actually come, and they actually take the responsibility to link the include to link the header file from the include directory. You know why we are using the hash include stdio.h. It is most of the people actually explain that hash include means you have to include the stdio.h header file. No, it is not. It is not correct. I mean, I don't know how many faculty members are there. Just I inform you. Hash include means hash is a preprocessor and include is a directory. So if you traverse the TC directory, you see there is another subdirectory include subdirectory is there. If you open the include subdirectory, you will see a lot of header files are there. And you can also this header file actually if you want the each and every header file, any header file, you see a lot of preprocessor, that lot of hash chains are there. Hash chains means compiler not involved for execution of this instruction. Okay, loader linkers are there, they take the responsibility and they actually execute the instruction. Okay, so this header file, you see that lot of instructions are there, you can't modify. Okay, if you remove some lines, you get an error. Okay, so this header file is a predefined header file. So what type of header file I want to include, it depends what type of function I actually use. For example, in case of the printf and scanf, most standard input output function whenever I use, I actually include the stdio header stdio.io.h header file from the include directory. Okay, but why we giving the both the greater than and less than sign just before the stdio.h header file and after the stdio.h header file? Because you can also develop your own header file. For example, if you develop your own project in C, so you have to actually develop some pre-compiling tasks. That means pre-assigned tasks, and you can include all these tasks into the common header file. Suppose I give the header file name is common.h, and I give the instruction to the linker and loader to include the common.h header file before I execute my program. Okay, so in that case, compiler as well as the interpreter and loader, loader and linker also understand what's the basic difference between the predefined header file in include directory and what user defined header file in the include directory. Okay, so with the help of double quoted mark, you actually whenever you develop your own header file, you have to include hash include double quoted mark, and inside the double quoted mark include your own header file. Okay, you understand? So in this way, compiler as well as the linker and loader understand this is the user defined header file which actually present in the include directory. Okay, so for the differentiation, we actually use the greater than less than sign for the user already pre-installed header file in the include directory, and double quoted for my case whenever I want to develop some header file. So in case of procedural language, you have to maintain some instruction that actually compiler actually whenever you learn the programming language. For example, in case of C, whenever you write the hello world, you have to write the main hash include stdio.h header file main, etc. etc. But in script, it is not actually you can easily write the single instruction to print something on the screen. There is no requirement for using lot of instruction for simply type one string or one character or multiple characters on your screen. Okay, so in case of script, that means the Python, in case of Python, what you see, there is an interpreter. So you know what's the, because from class 6 onwards you learn what the basic difference between compiler and interpreter. Actually, compiler at a time compile all the program and convert it to the corresponding machine level code, And in the case of compiler, you know, the compiler actually is not quite actually compatible with actually conversion from your code to the machine code directly, because there is an assembler. So compiler actually gives some object code to the assembler. Then assembler actually take this object code and convert it to the corresponding assembly code and execute the assembly code and gives the machine level code to the rest of the part of your system. So therefore, you see that if your C program consists of maximum 3 to 4 lines, whenever you compile the program and build the program, you see what's the length of the object file, more or less 100 to 150. So why? Your program consists of maximum 3 to 4 lines, but whenever you compile your program, it actually becomes 100 to 150 lines. Why? Because that object code, actually, whenever that object code actually developed by the compiler, actually compiler also include the header file content as well as the some instruction for the assembler. This assembler mainly consists of two parts, pass 1 and pass 2. You see that in case of C, whenever you compile your C program, you see that what the object code, it shows that the pass 2 object. Pass 2 means the assembler mainly consists of two parts, pass 1 and pass 2. Pass 1 is quite familiar with the compiler because compiler is not able to understand the assembly language. Therefore, for C, you know that there are specific type of assemblers there. For example, Turbo assembler. Turbo C is one of the common C language compiler. So in case of the C language compiler in Turbo, you see that Turbo assembler is there. Commonly it is known as the TASM. Okay. TASM assembler. So ASM. Similarly, Microsoft assembler is known as the MASM. MASM. So you can use the Microsoft assembler, you can use the Turbo assembler for the assembly language programming. And you see that the assembly language, this assembler is not able to understand the compiler language. So therefore, there is a part of in assembler, this is known as the pass 1 assembler, which is actually responsible for what? It takes simply the instruction from the compiler and convert it to the assembly language so that the pass 2 of the assembler part now understand what actually compiler want to say. Okay, therefore you see after the compilation of your C program, you see that the object file shows the pass 2. This pass 2 means pass 2 assembler create the object code. Pass 1 assembler is not as able to convert the assembly code directly. So it converts your compiler, your program part to the corresponding assembly code, and then pass 2 take the input from the pass 1 and convert it to the corresponding machine level code. So this is the procedure. This is the procedure for execution of the program in the case of C language. But in case of interpreter like Python, it is simple because it actually executes one by one instruction what you actually give in the text editor. Okay, you can use the directly from the command prompt. You can use your universal text editor, that is the notepad. Even what I suggest, whenever you write your program in the notepad, you have to give the, because you know the text editor is a universal text editor, you have to give the name of the text program extension .py. Otherwise, if you simply save your program in notepad .txt, that interpreter is not able to understand. Okay, so you have to change the program extension to .py. How it's possible? Look that I just share one screen here. Just I open the notepad, then I share you. Look that, because notepad is a universal text editor, means you can use that notepad in your Linux system, in your Unix system, in your Windows system, anywhere. So I just share the notepad here. So whenever you write something here, suppose you write something, suppose 2 plus 3, etc., etc., you simply save. How you save the program? Save as. Then you go to this portion, all files, and just I want to save the program in my desktop, so I can show you. Now, suppose prog1.py. So this is my Python program. So I write prog1.py. I save the program. Before I write the extension, I have to change the save as type to all files. Otherwise, it saves as .txt extension. So your interpreter, that means your Python interpreter, is not able to understand what you are trying to say in your Notepad text editor. So you have to give the .py extension, and then you save. Automatically you see that the program name is now prog.py in Notepad. Okay. So if I share my desktop, just 1 minute. Desktop here. Desktop here. You see the desktop here. Look that. The prog, look that. The prog Python. You see? Prem দেখা যাচ্ছে তো?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, prog.py, automatically the Python sign is there. Okay, so this is the way by which you can use the Notepad as a Python editor. But what's the problem? The problem is that my GitHub actually opening, sorry. Yeah, what's the problem is that whenever you want to install some package, because you know that in case of Python, a lot of packages are there. So whenever you want to install some packages into your Python, to the Notepad, you are not able to install. Okay, so therefore the specific type of Python text editor, lot of Python text editors there already actually Devashish said informed about the Python text editor Jupyter. I will explain later in my one by one. So Jupyter is of course the intelligent text editor. You know that in all the renowned universities they actually use the Jupyter text editor. Instead of the Jupyter text editor, there are a lot of text editor for Python. Not only for Python, even you can use. You know that we actually develop our art programming lab. That art programming lab you can also execute the Python script, but for dedicatedly, if you want to use the Python text editor dedicatedly only for Python, then you can install Pycharm, Pycharm, Pycharm site. I just write in chat box Pycharm, Pycharm, Pycharm. This is the one of the intelligent text editor. I will show you just 1 minute. I open just 1 minute. I open my, yes. I share the screen now. Desktop. I share the desktop. Open the, first I open, then I share. What's the interface of the Pycharm? Yes, I open the Pycharm. Look that this is the text editor of the Pycharm. You can simply, I just remove. So this is the text editor of the Pycharm. So maybe after the installation of the Python in your system, you just search the Pycharm text editor in Google, and you will see that the Pycharm text editor website, and from Pycharm website, text editor website, you install the Pycharm as a default text editor of your Python based system, because it is an intelligent text editor. You can use the Notepad also, but what's the problem? Notepad is not the intelligent text editor. Why? Because whenever you, what is the intelligent text editor? Whenever you write some keywords on the text editor, it automatically identifies what type of keywords are there. Okay, so with the help of some color code, you can identify, and even they can prompt the text editor, intelligent text editor, even prompt you what will be your next instruction. If any coding error is there, it shows some symbols so that you can identify what types of bugs. You know, the programming error is known as the bug. What type of bugs are there in your program? So easily you can identify. And you, in future, whenever I explain or whenever I teach you about the advanced level of the Python programming, you see what's the utility of this type of text editor. Okay. So I will explain, but today, first of all, I show you what's the flexibility of the Python programming from my command prompt. So I simply stop the share and I open the command prompt again. You see the command prompt. So if you want to exit from the Python shell, how it's possible? With the help of the Control and Z. You type Control and Z and then you press enter. Automatically you exit from the Python shell. Okay, if you want to enter into the Python, so again you type py and press the enter, you enter the Python shell. Okay, Python interpreter, not Python shell. Actually, normally we tell you that the Python shell, because it gives a one type of environment like the shell, so that because you know in shell, whenever you write any program or any instruction in shell, you see this type of sign. So therefore, commonly people actually say Python shell, but Python shell is not the correct word. You can say that the Python interpreter. So now you can give that instruction, directly instruction to the Python interpreter, and Python interpreter is now responsible to execute your instruction. For example, today we mainly concentrating on what? Playing with numbers. So in case of C, if you want to write, if you want to add two numbers, so you have to take integer, two type of integers. You have to include first header file, then main, then text, two type of integer. Type is int. Then from user input, you have to take the input. Then for integer, you have to mention the %d, because % is for integer. Then you have to use the address operator, so that how the program actually execute. Whenever you write the int a and int b, that means your compiler actually take the two memory cell, either 2 bytes or 4 bytes, because it depends on what type of operating system you use. If you use a 16-byte programming or 32-bit programming operating system, it will be 2 byte, but in case of 64-bit programming, it will be 4 byte. Okay, you understand? Therefore, I tell you that the organization part and the programming part is closely related, because in your textbooks in C, you see that whenever you want to know what the size of the integer, it shows that the size of the integer is 2 byte. But whenever you use your Windows 10 operating system and write a C program to know what's the size of the integer, you see that the size is 4 byte. How it's possible? Because it depends on the what type of operating system you use. If you use a 64-bit operating system, then it gives you 4 byte. And if you use the 16 or 32-bit programming operating system, then it gives you the 2 bytes. So it depends on the what type of operating system, what type of infrastructure you have. Okay, so in case of the C, if you want to add two numbers, you have to take two integers, then you take another integers for the output, and you put C equal to A plus B, then you print the C, along with you also give the %d. Okay, so this is the complicated task, because you want to only perform what? Only adding of two numbers. Okay, but in case of Python, it is quite easy. You simply type 2 plus 3. I already show you that 5. Even if you want to multiply 2 into 3, so if you want to multiply 2.13 into 1.2, it gives the output, floating point output also. But in case of C, you have to define the floating point number, and then the precision will be there, because you know you are the student of the mostly from computer science, don't know a lot of streams are there, but you know the numerical analysis, Newtonian methods are there, Taylor methods are there. So at that time, whenever we want to do some numerical analysis program, there is a of course there is a question after point how many digits will be there. But look that in case of Python, you can easily get lot of after point, lot of digits. Okay, even whenever you use in case of C in Python, in case of C, whenever you use the floating point arithmetic is there, you have to specify that number of digit you have to take after point. Okay, and sometimes overflow may occur. You know what's the concept of the overflow? Because you know that whenever you declare the variable has its own size. For example, if you declare the integer variable in suppose in 16-bit machine, 16-bit operating system, then it gives you 2 byte. That means 16-bit. So 16-bit means whenever you write something, it converts to the corresponding machine level 0 and 1. So if it actually, you know that what's the length, maximum suppose the length is cross over the 16 bits, then because all the 16 bits is not given for you for storing the number, because some bits actually assigned for the sign. What type of sign you use, this is known as the sign bit. So therefore, in case of C, you have to use the unsigned int. Unsigned int means you use the sign bit also for storing the number. That means this type of memory crunch, actually memory limitations are there in C. So therefore, we know that there is a specific type of data type unsigned int X. Basic difference between unsigned int X and int X, you know that in case of unsigned int X, I can use the sign bit for storing the number, but in case of int X, there is a there will be a bit, few bits for represent the sign. Because in assembly language, you know that the whenever we write some variables in assembly language, there is some sign bit concept, because for this is a 4-bit for the sign. For example, in case of the plus, it will be 0011 minus 0101, etc. and etc. Okay, so this sign bit concept also common in C, because you know that during the development of the C language, before C language there was the assembly language. So of course they are closely related. So in case of Python actually developed during 1991. So at that time, so what the limitation of the C? You know, in case of C++ also, what the limitation? When the Staustrup, who is the inventor of the C++, whenever see that what's the limitation of the structure in C? In structure in C, we can access all the variables present in the structures, even we are not able to incorporate the function into the structure. This is the limitation. So therefore, what actually he wants to do, he actually think that we can develop the structure in more advanced way, so that we can give some opportunity to the user by accessing the structure element, either private or public or protected mode, and even we can put the function into the structure. Therefore, this structure, this advanced structure, Staustrup gives the name C with class. Okay, therefore after that it actually known as C++. Okay, but in C++ text editor, if you write the structure similar way in case of class, you see that without using the class, you can also use the structure in C++ like a class. That means in C++ structure, you can put the variable, you can test. If you know the C++, you write the program in instead of class, you write the program in structure, and you use the word struct instead of class, and put the private variable name, then function. So C++ structure is so powerful, but actually Staustrup know what's the importance of the C, because he also the scientist of the AT&T lab. He knows what type of struggle Carnegie Ritchie actually when during the development of the C language, and what's the importance. It actually changed the environment of the computer world. Okay, so therefore, what the Staustrup actually informed, that I enhance the flexibility of the structure in C, but I never, I am not willing to remove the structure concept in C and import the C class concept. So therefore, structure will remain the same as in C, but in C++, it is the advanced structure, so it is known as a class. So if people actually sometimes write the program in C++ text editor with structure instead of the class and ask the question, why sir we are using the structure like a class in C++, so why are you using the class? Even you can do all the things, inheritance, polymorphism, etc. A lot of tasks you can do the C++ in structure mode. Okay, but this is the reason. So this is the reason that the structure remain the same, because from the structure concept, class concept actually developed. So therefore, structure remains same in C, but class actually, the class concept, structure concept actually enhanced. The feature actually enhanced, so it is known as the class. Okay. So similarly, in case of the Python, whenever you write something, suppose 3 by 2, you know you will get, look that there is no requirement of, because in case of C, if you write the int A, int B, and then if you store the 3 into A and B to 2 into B, then if you perform the function C output as an integer type A by B, then you will get only the 1, because there is no the fractional part. But if you want to get the fractional part, then again you change the output to the floating point, but again you will get 1.0. So for getting the actual output in C, you have to use both the variable in floating point A and floating point type of B and floating point of output, then you can get the desired result. But in case of Python, you see what's the flexibility, what's the simple. You can simply type 3 by 2, you get the output. Even if you want to get the remainder 3 by 2, you use 3 double slash. Double slash means you want to get the remainder part. Okay. So you will get the remainder part. For example, 7 by suppose 4. Look that here because you know that the remainder part 7 by 4 or 7 by 4, 1.75. Okay, you will get the desired result with the help of this type of operator. Even if you want to get the power 2 to the power 2, this means 4, or 2 to the power 3, you will get 8. But in case of C, you have to use the POW function for getting the output, because POW function is the library function. Otherwise, you have to actually develop your own library function for getting the own user-defined function for getting the power output of an integer number. Okay. Even you can directly assign the variable in Python. Look that if I want to calculate the area of a rectangle, I can take the length equal to 2 and breadth equal to 3. Then I take the area A equal to L into B. And if you want to know what's the area, is going to type A, you will get the output. So look that whenever I type L equal to 2, I use the assignment operator equal to sign. That means 2 actually stored into L, that means in length value, and 3 actually assigned to the B, that means the breadth value, and then I perform. So whenever I type L equal to 2 and press enter, the interpreter executes the instruction that it takes the variable name as L, because whenever I type L, it shows the value 2. That means it stored the value into its memory. Okay, but if I assign L equal to now 8 and I type the L, it shows the 8 now, because now it is, you know, that the new value is 8, so the previous value automatically deleted. So look that whenever I use the L equal to 2, that means 2 actually assigned into L and 3 actually assigned into B. Now I use A equal to L into B. According to my wish, I actually take the third variable A, and here 2 type of operator actually I use. First one is the multiplication L into B. So from the right to left, you know that whenever assignment operation actually execute, what's the flow of the execution of the assignment operation? The write first execute L into B, then it assigned to the A. So therefore I get the user variable. Even suppose in case of C, I use L++. Look that here I am not able to use the post increment or pre-increment error. It's a pre-increment operator. Look that here invalid syntax is ++L. You see the L value remain the same. Okay, so this is the problem. There's not is the problem because you know this creates some actually ambiguity whenever we execute, because it's a normal question in interview. What is the basic difference between the pre-increment and post-increment operator? We can use the pre-increment, post-increment defined way, but not like in this way. Okay, and another thing is that Python interpreter is very much flexible to give you about the error, which is known as the syntax error. You know the syntax. Syntax means the grammar of the programming language. This is not the syntax error. There are a lot of type of errors are there. For example, the error may be syntactical error. Syntactical error means this type of error that interpreter, or in case of compiler, for example, in case of C, the syntax error is present. Syntax errors means what the Cunningham-Ritchie or what the Rossum actually interpret, what the instruction actually given for developing the interpreter or compiler at the time of developing the Python and C, they actually depends on some language. Actually, Humor sir actually informed one question that each and every language actually developed in other parts of the world, not in India. Why? Because whenever you want to develop some language, you have to understand the language grammar. Okay, so then you can develop your own language. So whenever the grammar actually on the basis of the grammar language actually develop, and during that time the developer of the C as well as the Python or C++ or Java or etc., they actually give some logic. So if you break this logic, you will get the error. This is known as the syntax error. But the error may be semantic error, may be there. Compiling error, of course, is there. Lot of errors are. Parsing error is there. In case you know the gradually we will inform what's the parsing error. So a lot of errors are there in the programming language. So experienced programmer, after you know the programming language well, then you can understand why that type of error actually occurs, and you can mitigate that type of error. So this is the way by which we can actually perform the basic operation in C. And now I can show you the another example with string. Just I give few example string. I suppose I actually write one string a equal to interesting. In case of strings, what is string? String means string is nothing but the consecutive characters. Okay, so white space is also a character. For example, I am a boy. I am a boy means here how many characters are there? I is a one character, space is one character, A is one character, M is one character, again space is one character, B is one character, O is one character, Y is one character. That means 8 characters are there. Okay, so consecutive 8 characters are there. So this is known as the string. So this is the basic difference between the single character and consecutive character. When the consecutive characters are there, this is known as the string, and each string consists of number of characters. Okay, so you can assign, you can take the value from the string also. How it's possible? In case of the C, I have already explained that what is the difficulty of the using the C in the string in C. Therefore, one type of language, you can see the language which is known as the snowball, which is actually developed only for the string processing. Okay, even string is quite complicated. String itself, just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. I have one phone. Just 1 minute. Yes. Actually, whenever you see in case of C language, you see that there is a dedicated string.h header file is there. Lot of string functions are there. For example, if you want to compare the string with the ASCII value, there is a string compare function. If you want to concatenate the string, you use the string concat function. Lot of functions are there for handling the string. Even you are not able to actually take the input from user whenever you want to use the string. Even you are not able to print the output of a string, because for the C language compiler actually use one specific type of buffer which is known as the std-in buffer. This type of std-in buffer also common in IO stream concept in C++. You see that input stream and output streams are there in C++ language. So therefore, whenever we include the IO stream and we use the C in and C out in case of and right shift and left shift operator. This is a bitwise operator. You use the in C++ language, but in C language we use getS, putS, percentage, etc. Okay, but you see in case of Python, it's quite simple. Look that if I want to use one string, I simply take the variable a and put RAM. Very good, and press enter. Then I want to see what's the content of a. I see the content is RAM. Even I can use a equal to RAM is a good boy. RAM is a good boy, and press the enter. I think again I type a, it shows the output. But in case of the C, you have to take the array of maximum 10 to 15 or 16 or 20 or 200 or 300 or 400 characters. So what's the problem of the using array? To know that whenever array is a static memory allocation, so if I want to allocate 200 or 400 memory cells for storing the character, but if I use only 5 to 10 among 400 characters, then rest of the 390 character actually not utilized properly. So it is not the example of the good programmer or good programming language, because memory, that means the RAM is one of the important resource in your computer system. And if you misuse the RAM with the help of array by defining array with large size, that means in case of your multi-processing operating system, the operating system will not able to execute number of processes due to the unavailability of the free memory cell. But in case of Python, you see there is no requirement of using this type of array or anything else. What type of string you actually use, it simply take that number of memory and execute the program. Okay, so you use, for example, if you in case of Python, you can also use the double quote. Look that RAM. You can type a, it shows the RAM. So what's the basic difference between double quote and single quote? Actually, most of the textbooks actually inform you that you can use either double quote or single quote. That's not an issue. Python understand both. But what's the problem? I show you one result. Look that if I want to store Ram's book, in Bengali it is known as the Ramer Boi, Ram's book. So I have to use this Ram's book. Okay, then I press the enter. What's the output? It shows the error. Why? Because here the interpreter actually become puzzled to see that the open quote is there, but after the RAM automatically it closed the open quote. Then again after the book another quote is there. So it expect that as there is a three, actually there are three quotes, it should be 4. That means before RAM 1, then after RAM 1, then again another before S, and after the book. But it is not your intention. Your intention is you want to print Ram's book. So in that case, you take double quote and put Ram's book. Okay, and you press enter. Now you see that it shows the output Ram's book, because this is the basic difference. So whenever you want to use the single quote in your string, you have to put the double quote. Okay, otherwise it creates an error. Look that what's the utility. Okay, even suppose I just want to give one example. This is interesting. Suppose I want to concatenate the two string. Look that A equal to Ram and B equal to Sham. Okay. Now I want to print A plus B. Look that it shows the Ram Sham. But if I want to put some space in between Ram and Sham, what I can do? A plus, then I concatenate with a space, then I concatenate it with B and print. Look that Ram space Sham. So it is easily I can identify, I can concatenate, even I can retrieve the single character. For example, if A equal to, of course, in next class I will explain more details about it. Suppose this is if A equal to Ram, and if I want to know, you know, in case of array in C, you know there is a subscript value. Automatically, you can take the value from A. Look that A0 means R, because whenever the RAM actually, Python actually stored the RAM string into the memory, it maintains its own subscript value. It starts from 0 for R, A for 1, and M for 2. So if you want to print the A2, you will see that M, actually you find the M. But if you want to print the last character, you also see, this is interesting, because in case of C, you are not able. So in this way, you can see that only for 3 characters from interpreter of Python actually utilize only the 3 memory cells. Okay, but in case of C, whenever you store the RAM in a array, so you have to directly you have to store, suppose the RAM into 10 characters array. So only 3 characters actually utilized. These 7 characters are even free. Okay. So, but in case of the, this is known as the static memory allocation. But in case of the Python, you see what type of string you use according to your specification. Interpreter actually use that type of, that number of memory cell. This is interesting. Even you can access the -2, that means A. Look that it is A. Okay. So this is RAM RAM. Even you can access how many character you want to access, you can mention. You see, it execute colon means it starts from first and take first character 1. How many characters? 1. If I use this, that means 2 characters I want to take from from the beginning, RA. Okay, so this is the flexibility of the Python. So today is the introduction class. So I think that it is enough for today, and of course in future next class I will show you the programming with the help of the Pycharm text editor, because it is a quite professional way for developing your own Python program, because you know that this execution of the instruction in the command prompt, you are not able to store the value. Either you have to use, if you want to store the value in a file format, so you have to use your notepad, either the notepad, or you have to use your Pycharm text editor or Jupyter text editor. Okay, so next class we'll explain the Python in more details, and we'll use the Pycharm text editor. So in this coming days, you just install Python in your machine, also Pycharm text editor, and then accordingly from next Sunday we'll proceed. Okay, accordingly.
Thank you, Priti Moeda. And I think we'll discuss later about the sending the links among the students. So we'll discuss later, I think. Priti Moeda,
Yes.
the total mechanism.
I will give you. Subhoshachi actually asked me for the books. Of course, I will give you the books next class. Okay. This week you just install the Python, and what I write in the command prompt you try to execute. Then next week I will give you the books. Okay. You can also get the book from internet also, but I will give you the books.
And what will be the mechanism to send the link to the students, in-house students? So we can discuss later.
Yes. Because I know that your mail ID is there, na?
I think it will be better to send the links to the HOD, every HOD than.
Yes.
I think it will be better.
Yes. HOD will distribute the books to among
And
the
and
students.
you and or Prem Kumar or your team can maintain the attendance from the next class.
Yes. Now today I think that students are there, so they also Prem Kumar also give the attendance also.
ওকে, তো আমরা একদম ক্লাসের শেষের দিকে এসে গেছি। স্যার আছেন, স্যারের পারমিশন নিয়ে তাহলে আজকে ক্লাস এখানে শেষ করতে পারি। আমরা এর পরের সানডে আবার আমাদের ক্লাস হবে, তো আমরা লিংক পাঠিয়ে দেব। স্যার মিউট হয়ে স্যার।
ক্লাস শেষ করো এবার।
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার, প্রত্যেক এখানে আসার জন্য অনেক ধন্যবাদ। এবং প্রীতি ময়দা, তুমি যেভাবে পাইথনটা বোঝাচ্ছিলে আমারও খুব ভালো লাগছিল, খুব সুন্দর। এবং পরের ক্লাস থেকে আরো সবাই স্টুডেন্ট আসবে এবং আমরা মেকানিজমটা ঠিক করে নেব যে কিভাবে লিংকটা পাঠানো যায়।
হ্যাঁ, একটা কথা যে অনেকের কাছে মেল আইডিটা কিন্তু সব্যসাচী বলছিল মেল আইডি এইচওডিরা পাঠাননি, ফলে ও ইনফর্ম করতে পারেনি। আমি মনে করি এইটার মধ্যে এই প্রবলেম গুলো একটু সারিয়ে নিতে হবে।
আমার মনে হয় প্রীতি ময়দা, মানে এইচওডিরা পাঠাবে তার থেকে আমরা যদি লিংক এইচওডিদের পাঠিয়ে দিই, কারণ প্রত্যেকটা স্টুডেন্টের একটা হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ গ্রুপ আছে প্রত্যেকটা ডিপার্টমেন্টে।
সেটা প্রথম দিন আমাদের একটু অসুবিধা হয়েছে।
হ্যাঁ, এই এইচওডিরা যদি জাস্ট ওই গ্রুপে লিংকটা দিয়ে দেন, তাহলে প্রত্যেকটা স্টুডেন্টই তাহলে লিংকটা পেয়ে যাবে আর কি।
ঠিক আছে, তাহলে আমরা বুধ বৃহস্পতিবারে লিংকটা ক্রিয়েট করে দিয়ে দেবে।
হ্যাঁ, প্রত্যেকটা এইচওডি কে যদি দিয়ে দেবে এই আর কি। আর অ্যাটেন্ডেন্সটা প্রেম যদি প্রথম থেকে একটু কাউন্ট করে, মানে যে কোনো ভাবে কিভাবে করা যায়।
We are monitoring online. We are monitoring.
আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে স্যার, তাহলে আপনার অনুমতি নিয়ে তাহলে শেষ করি আজকের ক্লাস। সকলকে অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ, সকলে ভালো থাকবেন। এবং এরপরেও আজকে আমাদের অনেকগুলো প্রোগ্রাম আছে বিকেল 5টা থেকে এবং 7:30 থেকে অ্যানিমেটেড প্রেজেন্টেশন ক্লাস। প্রত্যেকে সেখানে অ্যাটেন্ড যেন করেন সেই জন্য অনুরোধ করছি। সবাই ভালো থাকবেন।
সারপ্রাইজ আছে বলে দিন।
সারপ্রাইজ আছে অ্যানিমেটেড প্রেজেন্টেশন ক্লাসে। সকলে ভালো থাকবেন, সুস্থ থাকবেন।